Welcome to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy TV. This is where you get the latest updates on business, finance, economy, market, as well as investment information. If you couldn't follow us live on television, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, press the notification bell so that you can get notifications. Thank you. Enjoy this video. I will be talking about tariffs. The telcos are proposing a 100% tariff increase, though the Minister of Digital Economy, Communications and Digital Economy is saying, guys, you may not get as much as 100%, but perhaps you're due for a tariff increase because you've not gotten it in the last 10 years. Agreed that you also operate in the same business environment as every other business, but Nigerians are really worried. Nigerians are concerned. In fact, worried and concerned are just soft words to use. Nigerians are visibly angry because of a lot of drop calls. I'm still making my calls and all of that. You'll be talking, hello, you don't cut, you know, you're paying for it. Who even refunds? You know, so a lot of issues. So coming up after this break is my guest, is Modupe Kadri. He's the Chief Financial Officer of MTN Nigeria Communications PLC. That's him on the screen. Modupe Kadri. Yes, Mr. Kadri, I'll come to you in just a few seconds. Good morning and welcome to the show. Yes, I will be coming to you in a few seconds from now, and we will get cracking as we'll be looking at the proposed tariffs. Well, I want to take tariff, you know, inundate us this period. Is that the Happy New Year gift? Anyway, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the program. My guest is joining me now. Of course, you saw him earlier. He's Modupe Kadri. He's the Chief Financial Officer at MTN Nigeria Communications PLC. Good morning, Modupe, and welcome to the program. First time, if I have a bell, I should ring for you on the show.
Nancy.
Good morning.
It's nice catching up with you after the NESD.
Yes,
so.
Fantastic. Nice catching up with you too. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Now, but Nigerians are not happy with you guys, you know, that we're waking up into the new year and you guys want to give us a new year gift that is not so palatable, proposing tariff increase. What do you have to say about that regarding, of course, coming at a time when Nigerians are being squeezed, our lives are being squeezed, our livelihoods has been squeezed, inflation at over 34% right now, because there's a cost of living crisis that is still existing. You are the CFO of perhaps, I think, the largest in Nigeria, the largest telecom company in Nigeria with millions and millions of subscribers. I was looking at your revenue, you know, in trillions, even though we are struggling as an economy. So why at this time?
Okay, I think thanks very much for the question. I think maybe the question should actually be repositioned as to why not at this time. I think let's go back in history and look at some contextual to put the situation in context. So if you do recall, the president, when he came in, the first thing he did was to remove the subsidies on PMS. Subsequently, we've seen the removal of the subsidies on electricity, and this was done in rapid succession. Now, these two items I've mentioned actually impacts on our operating costs. So to put it in context, prior to the deregulation of tariffs on electricity, I think on the average, the band A subscriber was paying about 50,000 monthly. Now he's paying about 150,000, 170,000 monthly. That's about 240% increase. The same thing happens with PMS from 185 to 1016, moderated down to 935 or thereabout now. But that's still a 400% increase. Now, for the telcos, these two cost impacts on our activities. Like you rightly pointed out, although slightly correct, that you said we've not got a tariff increase in the past 10 years. It's now 11 years and counting. Where you are maintaining the same revenue structure, more or less, and then you're now having increased costs. I think with the regulation, if the regulation is going to be government policy, then it should be across board. It should apply to all industries. Our fellow industries in other sectors, like in the FMCGs, you'll see that once this price, the rising cost that impacts on the operations, what they've just done is to pass it on to the customers or the consumers, and there's no regulation in that. So we can't talk about deregulating the economy and still have some regulation. I think it's more like some form of price control, which actually doesn't work in practical terms. So we feel the sensitivities of the Nigerians. We are Nigerians. We feel the pulse. But I think, which one would you take? Would you rather have your telecoms industry breakdown? I'm not able to make it to your studio, so we're talking digitally, which saves both ourselves time and money to get this point of view across in an efficient manner. And it applies to the same to all the Nigerians. And we should also bear in mind that the telecoms industry is actually the power engine of the Nigerian economy, powering other sectors. And if we don't have the right pricing to provide these services, then these things are going to collapse, and that's going to be bad for everybody. So I think this decision, the government has approved the tariff increases. It does it quantum, we don't know yet. This decision is a long a decision that should have been taken in the past. About the same time, the decision was taken to let the Naira find its true levels, which also impacts on the cost, which I'll talk about shortly, just to explain the context of why we really need this price adjustment so that we can really, survive, basically.
I would still like you to explain to us why there's a need for a price adjustment at this time, because earlier on you did say that why not this time? Nigerians are inundated with a lot of cost right now, like I mentioned earlier. But the issue that many Nigerians are also having with of course, your company is the largest in terms of millions of subscribers and all of that. You have a large market share. So your subscribers continue to express concerns about service quality. For me, for example, this morning, I was making a call. In the middle of that call, I had a drop call. So how do you justify that? How do you justify the price adjustment now, service quality as well as service delivery? It's a tough nut to crack. But I'm trying to understand you as a business concern too. Which one do you take, the chicken or the egg situation?
Look, I don't think it's actually as complicated as you make it seem. So, when it comes to service quality, there are a number of factors that affect service quality, and I'll just give a couple. Which I think about this time last week, or 2 weeks ago, there was a news report in Abuja metropolis where people were, vandalizing manholes,
Yes.
and destroying infrastructure. So now, if I told you around December in Lagos here, I won't mention the area, where people, vandals for want of a better word, physically actually put fire, set bonfires in a manhole which houses a fiber connection. Where basically that destroys the connectivity to the site. So just imagine that's a hub site, which maybe connects about 20 sites, and the fiber connection is down. What is going to happen? Your quality of service is going to degrade. The same thing also happens with the case of road construction. These guys, when they do their road constructions, they do severe fiber cables willfully, with impunity to add, and all these things affect the service quality. So that's one side of the equation. That is the ones that are done by what you could call willful vandalization for whatever intent and purposes. Now, bear in mind that most of these infrastructure are critical national infrastructure, which the current administration has actually passed into law, which makes it illegal for people to tamper with these things. But they still get away with this vandalization. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is the fact that due to increased demand, we need to understand how this the cell technology works. As people latch onto the network, you're going to be requiring more resources. So you're going to need things like spectrum, and we're thankful to the current administration in terms of how they've liberalized, made that easy. There's free trading of spectrum. So if you looked at our corporate disclosures are sent. We've announced some strategic, using of spectrum to allow us to carry much more traffic. And you're right, being the largest, over 70 million subscribers, that requires a lot of resources to make that happen. The last point, of course, and that's the elephant on the table, which is the investments. Normally, what would happen is once sites start to congest, you should be able to put in more investments. In other words, build more sites or put more capacity on the sites. And most of the sites in the metropolis today are actually maxed out. So what you actually need to do is to build in new sites. Now, if there's no business case to build new sites, and that's where we are today in terms of the economics of sustaining the infrastructure today doesn't exist. You have rising costs, and I give an example. Last quarter alone, you saw there was an increased activity of MTN on the market. We put out some commercial papers, and this comes at the cost of almost 30%. So the question back to you, Nancy, is that how do you do business in Nigeria, where the cost of the finance cost of your capital is really 30% without making a profit? I mean, that's clearly not sustainable. So when Nigerians are talking about these things, we are sensitive. We feel the pain. We are also Nigerians. And but the issue is, if the industry is not going to collapse, then we need to have the appropriate tariffs, and that would then also enhance the service qualities that you talked about. But again, I think for the for the Nigerians, the average Nigerian, you should also be out, be the watch guard. If you see things that are not going right, people vandalizing cables, then please shout out to the authorities to help. We're all in this together. Once a cable is severe, it probably takes on the average maybe 3 hours or 2 to 3 hours to fix. But again, you actually have to put a brand new cable, which probably imports at 1,500 or 1,550 to the dollar, and then you have all these things going on around. So I think the issue is that things can only get better once the investments are made. And perhaps, as you echo the warning I gave at the NESD, which is the fact that if we do not make the industry right in terms of the tariff structure, then what happened to the petroleum industry is likely to happen to the telecoms industry, where people will stop making those investments that are required to sustain the quality of service of the network in the country. Thanks.
I understand you, because the telecoms industry or sector seems to be a poster child as to the correct way of how the regulation is done. You mentioned earlier that it's not even 10 years. In my intro, I said more than 10 years. You actually said now 11 years we never raised tariffs. So you're justifying your sector that, guys, we've not raised prices in the last 11 years and we need it at this time. I hear you loud and clear, even though you were brushing around it. I would like to know, what are other operational challenges that your sector is facing currently as a result of inflation and the currency devaluation? Because we have now inflation at over 34%. You brushed on it a bit, but I would like you to go in depth, if there are other things, because I've read your financial statements, I've read for other companies too, even though, for example, MTN Nigeria, your shares on the exchange has been wilting a bit. You just mentioned earlier that you guys had commercial papers some months ago, but speak to me about the operational challenges that your industry faces at this time.
Okay, so thank you, and thanks for that. So let's go granular. I didn't want to go granular, but since you wanted to go granular, so let's go granular. Okay, so one of the major costs that we incur is our tower cost. So our tower cost, basically, we don't own the towers, we lease these towers from any of the tower operators. Now, these tower operators have a cost profile that's probably indexed to the dollar in terms of the services they provide to us, which we pay for. So if you look at it from that context, on the average, my tower costs have gone up, and these are public numbers. They were, published on the exchange. The tower cost has gone up by, from to almost 900 billion as at Q3, from a base of over 400 billion the previous year. That's almost over 102%. Now, the sad thing is that the costs that we are paying today reflects the current pricing for those services by those providers. Meanwhile, I'm unable to pass on those costs to the subscribers. So what's going to happen in effect is that I've been borrowing money to pay for these services without getting the revenue upside. And that also applies to most of the things. You know, the telecoms industry is capital intensive. There's virtually anything on the network that is probably not imported to a large extent. We don't manufacture telecoms equipment in Nigeria. Most of the services we pay for, the vendors, be it the Ericssons, the Huawei's, the ZTEs, the Nokias of this world, are all, you know, foreign OEMs, that's original equipment manufacturers. And we have to pay for these services. And all these services, the license cost on the network, you talk about over 70 million subscribers. There is a license cost attached to the OEM providing those services, and it's in dollars. So if you, for instance, looked at the fact that same time last year, around this time, Naira was probably at 700 or 800 to the dollar, and now it's 1,500 or 1,600 to the dollar. And we're paying for these things with the increased subscriber base. What's going to happen is that you're going to incur a loss. Now, if you also look at our Q3 results, you'll find out that the issue, like most of the obligations that we have in foreign, in US dollars or foreign currencies, has led to us incurring forex losses of over 900 billion naira as at Q3. As a matter of fact, if you also look at the second MNO, when you look at the results, they equally posted similar numbers of over almost $1 billion as of 9 months. So if your two leading MNOs in the country are incurring on just one line over 2 trillion naira in forex losses, how do you expect them to survive? And look at the revenue growth. So the revenue is growing at 33% year on year, and my cost profile is increasing by over 100% year on year. So it's not rocket science. You don't even need to be a scientist to figure out the fact that if you continue at this trajectory, two things are going to happen. Apart from the fact that we've wiped out our shareholders' funds, so in other words, we're in negative equity. So it's either you call for additional investments to shore up the share capital, but then what's the business case for that? Or what's going to happen? Or you continue to borrow, and you continue to borrow at 30% when you're not actually recovering your cost. So when you look at virtually all the lines in the income statement, you know, you find out the fact that these costs are being passed on to us wholesale, sometimes 3 times, 4 times in a year, and we can't respond. And that's where the problem comes. So I've zeroed in on the tower cost because that's the most important number on the income statement when you look at the numbers. But the other items there, like your maintenance costs, your transmission cost, and all these things are, you know, to a large extent indexed to a foreign currency, which with the devalued naira makes it a huge sum to pay in local currency. So that's the problem statement, and that's what we're trying to get fixed or redressed with the approved tariff hike, which of course we don't know the quantum of what it is at the moment.
Okay, you don't know the quantum, but of course it's been approved because you mentioned it. You don't know the quantum as to what percentage the tariff hike would be. Did I hear you right, Modupe, when you talked about over 2 trillion naira in FX losses?
You have me right. So that's from MTN alone is almost 1 trillion. You can check my 9 months results.
Yes.
One line. And then if you check the other guys, you also see they posted something similar for the 9 months that was released. So I'm just still saying, how can, you know, again, without being pedantic or, you know, trying to trivialize the situation, you know, you look at the budgets of some states, and 2 companies, private companies or public companies, have to incur just on one line losses to that extent. And of course, you also look at the FMCGs too. They also have the same challenge, but theirs is a little bit easier because they're able to pass on their cost. And I'm unable to do that at the moment.
Okay, is there a guarantee really that with the proposed tariff hike, that it would increase infrastructure as well as overall service quality? Since the government and you guys have come to a consensus that tariff needs to be increased. Are you guaranteeing us that there will be service delivery, there won't be drop calls, I go to talk, you go to court, I won't have anybody to complain to, and even if I complain, my redress will not come on time, because this will also bring in more revenue for you. That's one. So is there a guarantee? Then number two, with this over 2 trillion naira in FX losses, when these proposed tariffs are implemented, as to what margin, how are you going to balance out the FX losses that you've incurred vis-a-vis? Now, let me take MTN, for example, since we're talking the industry, so we need to also go a bit granular. It's not something general. You made a revenue of about 2.4 trillion naira. Even with all of this, your revenue is 2.4 trillion naira. So how do you expect to balance out the FX losses while making more revenue that will also perhaps translate to profit, as it were, while also planning for long-term growth? You are the CFO. You deal with, now you be the money master there for MTN. That's why I'm getting you on the show today. Let's talk the money.
Okay, so let's start. Maybe I should also flip your question. What I can guarantee is that without the right tariffs, then all those things you wished for will not happen. So in other words, that if you are not able to invest, don't forget I've talked about two things on the show so far. One is the fact that I'll talk about sustainability. In other words, keeping the network at the levels they are today. And then the next aspect that we're talking about is actually the one that has to do with additional investments to cater for the growth in traffic that we're experiencing today. So yes, appropriate pricing would help the business case for additional investments, no doubt about that. And don't also forget, even despite the challenges that we face, we've actually not had any quality of service infractions with, we have a regulator who monitors these things, and the standards are actually stringent. So there are 1,001 reasons for your dropped call. It may not necessarily be related to the availability of the network. It could also have to do with if there's, for instance, you had some situations in some places where some sites went down because of, in the process of trying to put in diesel on the sites, they had some problems, and that could have a knock-on effect. So yes, it's important that we have the right investments or the right business case to make those investments to ensure that the level of service, our license conditions rather, are met, because quality of service is one of the license conditions that we have, and there are some parameters that the regulator always measures to make sure that we do not fall short of that. So that's the first aspect of your question. Now, I've lost my thoughts slightly on your second aspect. You asked me so many questions.
Yes. No, the other question which I asked is around long-term growth. You understand? Okay. Yes, as you're balancing the need perhaps to make more revenue.
Right. So how do you recover from the forex losses? Okay. Yes. So the first aspect of it was that we do acknowledge that the trillion naira losses that you see on our income statement arose mainly because of the movement of the naira from 907 as at December 2023 to 1,500 or 1,600 levels as at September 2024. So the first thing is that if there is no further devaluation or no devaluation to that extent, then that number goes away, and then you should be able to start to recover from the huge losses that you have posted. And the second thing is that in terms of, you talk about 2 trillion, 2.4 trillion revenue, but don't forget there's a cost in producing that revenue. Apart from the fact that, the government takes its own cut on that revenue directly, independent of whatever your cost profiles are. You also have the service providers you pay, like the tower companies. You pay for, the staff cost, the transmission cost, the maintenance cost, and even the spectrum cost that's amortized and all that. All these things you have to just take care of. So if you have the right appropriate pricing at the top level, what's likely to happen is that you should be able to recover and be on the path to recovery. And that's critical to the industry because everybody is looking at the telcos as a headline of the problem. But don't forget, there is over 2 million jobs at the back of that through other services, other people in our value chain that supports that ecosystem. No, those ones are also at risk. So having the right prices to ensure the sustainability of the industry also guarantees those 2 million jobs. And we should not lose sight of that as we are having this discussion.
Are you concerned that with higher tariffs would come a decline in customer base, in subscriber base, as well as customer reduction? And how do you intend to mitigate that? People when don't get money now, they go abandon their phones. It's not compulsory to do data.
Okay, so okay, I mean, we've seen prices of petrol go up. People did not abandon their cars. I'm sure you drove yourself to work today, hopefully. And we've seen electricity go up. People are still loading those meters and paying for it because they need it. Now, the reality is that telecoms has become part and of the fabric of the society. And what what a phone call can do. So assuming you wanted to have this chat with me and you're not able to communicate with me upfront, how would you have done in the previous days? Probably have come to the studio and you say, oh, so I can't see you today. Can you do it next week? And then you spend money and time and all that. So it's important that we understand that whilst there may be a drop in the usage, but the fact is that data does not support that assertion.
Okay.
What we've seen is that every time we put in additional capacity, there is a need for people to take to have a uptake on that. And look, let's actually talk about something that happened. So we all knew about the dirty December and the raves that is creating on social media, but you forget the fact that to a large extent was powered by the telecoms industry. And at least some of the reviews I've been reading, I've not had people complaining about quality of service over that period, which just tells you that as people shift from their behavior, everybody's now a content creator and also generating their own income streams. We see people doing home tuition, creating new lines of avenues. So I don't think, to be honest, if there was a time where we thought that that would go, consumption will go down, then it would have been during the time of COVID. But post-COVID, we've seen that people have actually changed their behaviors and people have now started doing creative things on the digital space.
Okay.
And Nigeria is not left behind. And one last point that you also mentioned is that you also know that the Honorable Minister of Communication and Digital Economy has talked about this 90,000 kilometer fiber project. Now, it's going to need a thriving telecoms industry to latch onto that and to be able to increase the inclusivity of Nigerians in the digital space. So I don't honestly see that. To be honest, Nigeria is a youthful population. People are latching onto the internet, doing creative things. And we've seen that. We've seen what Nigerians have done with music. We've seen what we've done with entertainment. We've seen what we're doing with tourism. And all these things requires a robust telecoms network,
Okay.
Supported by the right business cases to build that.
Okay. Modupe, just in 1 minute, the sector contributes significantly to GDP. How do you think that this hike will influence the sector's contribution? Then, very shortly also, your outlook for the sector this year, in just 1 minute.
In 1 minute, well, the sector with the hike will regain its true position, its proper position in the contribution to the GDP. Two, again, it's not even about the sector's contribution to the GDP, it's about what the sector is enabling other sectors in the GDP to do. So if the telcos sector is in place, then we should be fine. In terms of the outlook, I think the outlook is bright. I think honestly, with all sense of humility and respect, I think the government is addressing the right issues. The right policies are being put in place. I think the last block is this one of tariffs and regulation. Hopefully, we look forward to an environment where we'll be able to adjust tariffs as things get, as the economy responds. So either way, And I think with that, maybe the worst might be over for the telecoms industry. We'll be able to turn the corner. But it's early days. So many things are dependent on that. One, forex stability, the exchange rate. So if what has been promised in the budget is kept at 1400 or 1500, then that's fine for the industry. If the MPR is able to trend downwards, then that's fine for the industry. If we're able to get CPI under control, then that's fine for the industry and fine for Nigerians. I think we've taken a lot of pain as an industry. We've made our contributions to the economy, and I believe that the outlook can only be brighter once we don't have policy somersaults and we maintain the trajectory that we are currently ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Modupe, for joining us this morning and giving us at least some perspective, because your sector is known to be as very flamboyant as una be. You seem also to be a bit conservative, you know, to get you guys to speak. But I appreciate you this morning for coming to speak, at least for us understanding what's happening in the sector. You said so many things. So thank you very much, my friend. And hopefully we'll talk again within the year to see if things have improved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
All right. All right, I've been speaking with Modupe Kadri, the Chief Financial Officer at MTN Nigeria Communications PLC. We've been talking about the proposed hike in tariffs. You've heard it from him, so many things. Nigerians, on the part of Nigerians, why do we need increased tariffs when the services are not okay? But you just heard from the CFO of Nigeria's largest telecom company saying that the sector, not just for MTN, for other operators, that they've incurred over 2 trillion naira in FX losses. Tower costs are high. The MPR is high. Of course, that is from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The cost of borrowing is high. In fact, banks, as well as some ICT firms, telcos, that's telecom companies, as well as banks, as well as ICT firms, rather, are owing banks 1.6 trillion naira. In fact, that I read from the bulletin of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And these companies have to pay banks those monies back, because if they don't pay, for us as depositors also, our monies are at risk. So it's really a chain reaction, as it were. And that has been it on today's edition of the program. Thank you all for joining us. Please join us again next time. I am, of course, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 at noon. I'm always here to keep you up to speed with business, finance, economy, markets, investment, and the whole gamut of it. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy. Bye now. Thank you for watching. In case this is your first time watching us, thank you. Don't subscribe to the channel, drop your comments as well as like, and most of all, share our content.